What's going on, everybody? This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. Good morning, good afternoon. Long Island, New York, representing. We got San Francisco. We got all of my old hoods in the place, as well as we got Ricardo here from Mexico. What's going on, everyone? It is Friday, Dinkar. It is Friday. So excited for this Friday. Mike, Allison coaching. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Everyone stay safe out there. Giles, what's going on? Josh, good to see you all. We got some sound going on right now. You'll hear it in a second. Happy Friday tacos. That's what I'm all about today. It's been a good week. Let's push it in. Let's really tie this up and make this a good session ahead. David, appreciated those comments on the YouTube video, as I do all of them. I read and appreciate all of them, and we're so grateful and thankful for all of you. That's for sure. Now, Los Angeles, it's got a little bit of Southern Cali flavor going on over here. Really? Is that John? Lovely Lover in Scotland. Beautiful. Jane, Bay Area, representing. Buenos dias. So the question today that is on our minds is, as we seeing the futures trying to claw back some of yesterday's, what do you want to call it? Just major sell-off, risk-off move. We're seeing that being clawed back today. And the question that we need to look at today, the most important question that we're going to look at, is whether or not yesterday's move was just a bit of a taste of more things to come, or whether or not we actually need more data backing up that cause for concern that we saw yesterday, which would be, obviously further rises in cases in the US, specifically in Florida, California, Arizona, and Texas. I think the most worrying thing the market could see, and we haven't seen that at all, would be this. And you can see over why in the United States, they have basically flatlined coming off the curve, right? Mexico is still rising. But in Europe, in Spain, in Italy, if those start to rise, that's something that could really, really, really not be good for the markets. Let's put it that way. If we started seeing a second wave in Europe rising, that would indicate that what we're seeing in the United States is going to go from flatlining to an upward trajectory as well. That would be concerning. What happened yesterday was more of a repricing. When I say repricing, is once we broke above this upper trend line over here of this range we were in, let me point out that range, just trying to give us all some perspective this morning. There's that range that we were in. And once we broke over here, came back, you see that retest, and then shot up like a rocket, that's when things became a little bit disconnected. That's when things were euphoric and didn't make any sense. So now that we've come back in here and here, I mean, things make sense over here. Things make sense. And we could go either way from where we are today. We could continue this claw back up, right? This area over here at 30.96, this resistance, in that area, maybe even a little lower. That becomes interesting for me. I'm watching how price reacts over there and if it's rejected. And even though we're still looking at what is still an uptrend, you could see or sense that it has the possibility that it's beginning to roll over. So that's something to really watch out for. Now, what about on the upside, right? When do I say, all right, well, I was waiting to buy in. I want to, is this a safe place to buy the dip? Was it a safe place this morning? For me, the most important thing that I'm looking at this morning is coming off of the volatility yesterday, which was a very volatile day across FX, across the equity markets. I'm looking, and this morning we have at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, we have consumer confidence. That's a number, that's a print that could often turn the market. The market just keys off it. It's not really important. It's a hugely lagging indicator. But is now the moment when I'm looking to buy in and be like, all right, we got some room to the upside here? Just not yet. I want to give the market some time. I'm more about getting a feel after yesterday's volatility for what's next. All right. Hussam, thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's all I ask. We got the DAP and the tacos in one. That's amazing emoji play right there. That is this group right here. Definitely appreciate that. Yeah. Is it possible also that we consolidate now back over here, back over in this area? We were talking about perhaps as we grind through this summer, and I have to preface that I was expecting the COVID cases to be on the lower end throughout the summer. That's looking like that could change. And the next couple of weeks are going to be really interesting as you had these enormously large crowds rioting across the nation. And we're going to see if that also causes a spike in cases or not. So, it remains to be seen. But if we were, I was expecting perhaps a consolidation, not an orderly one, more of a volatile one, throughout this range over here. It's too soon to tell. Let's continue to take a look around, and we're going to see what else is going on. Right now, though, when it comes to the equity markets, this area is interesting over here that we're in right now. And as we rise up, let's see if we get a reversal off of this first retest of a broken support. Let's see if that firms up as resistance, and we'll see if we get some follow through to the downside or not. Not looking for any longs yet. That obviously could and has a strong possibility of changing next week. Just to give you all perspective, look at that bar that we put in yesterday. That's ugly. That's ugly. That's also how we started this whole mess with the big gap down. It led to another gap down. That's not happening now. Let's see what happens on Monday. On Monday, is the conversation going to change a little bit? Is it going to go back to what's going on? With the increase of infections, maybe tacos tonight. By the way, we're looking here at silver. Silver continues to consolidate above the last support area, continues to look very, very, very good. As does gold. Gold that actually, I didn't even notice. Gold came back into the support and then has resumed upwards and is trading towards the highs of the session. That looks lovely. It really does. It looks good. What about Bitcoin? Bitcoin worried a lot of people yesterday. So first of all, easy play. This was a layup. Yesterday's live session, we highlighted this yellow area of this triangle, and we said a break either way and where that move was going to lead to. It broke to the downside, and it hit our take profit of 9,100. And now we're coming up and we're testing this broken support to see if that holds as a resistance. If this rolls over and start making lower lows, it could be a tough weekend for Bitcoin, no question about it. Or if it climbs back into here, well, then we're a little bit safer. Now, the question comes up yesterday, are you concerned at all about the correlation between the S&P or the equity markets and Bitcoin? Because what happens if the S&P starts really now starting to roll over and go ahead? And what happens if we have a W-shaped recovery? What's a W-shaped recovery, right? Well, we have over here halfway V, but no, it goes back down and then recovers like that. That's a W. What happens if we have this type of recovery? Are we going to see much lower prints on Bitcoin, right? Yesterday, we saw the markets sell off on risk off, and we saw Bitcoin take a dive. I just want to point you to this chart over here. You could see over here, this is tracking the S&P 500, and over here Bitcoin, and you could see at the high over here, the high bar on Bitcoin actually, that put in a high of 19,666. The S&P was trading at 2675 at the time, 2675. Now you fast forward down to over here, Bitcoin's now trading at a price of $3,200, and you see the S&P is trading at 2,600. It hasn't moved. Bitcoin had a drawdown of 85%, and the S&P didn't do anything, right? It didn't do anything at all. So, or you could even fast forward, the S&P is now up about 8%, and Bitcoin is down, about 83%. So Bitcoin does what it does on its own. I'm not saying on a longer term basis here. I'm not saying on a day like today, a day like yesterday, when you had that huge risk off move, that Bitcoin wasn't affected. Yeah, it was. It broke down out of that thing, but it held the first area of support as we looked at. So there's that, right? Is it VU possibility? Everything is possible right now. Everything is in the cards. Everything is in the cards. It's too soon to say what we're going to see. Or, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Why I don't think I'm not leaning towards that being the case at all. But we could have 1929 when, we put in the low, and then 5-6 months later rolled over, took it out, and then went on to a brutal fall. Could that happen? Of course it could happen. We could see some enormous, huge solvency risks coming into the market even this month. But that's not my base case right here at all. Things are much different, right? Things are much different. Yeah, that Gary, very well put. I'm not falling in love with that initial spike up this morning. I'm just going to wait for clarity. Most importantly, aware of my surroundings. When I say aware of my surroundings, it's Friday. It's Friday right now. There was some good, there were possibilities earlier in London, no question about it. I knew ahead of time last night I was going to sleep well and not even think about it. But here we are now coming up. This becomes an interesting area. Maybe after consumer confidence, we're rejected here. We'll watch that. We'll look at it, but not yet. Not right now. We're going to continue taking a look around the markets. Boom, 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 boom. Ooh, we got thinking of changing my middle name to Money. Zulu family, good morning. Good to see you in here. All right. So the weekend is a wild card. Be careful positioning before the weekend. The weekend is definitely a wild card today. Did I add that? Yeah, I added this a while ago, right? Where it's not here. Let's look at the right over here. This is, by the way, I lean towards this is going to be faded. I'm not positioning myself that way yet, but I'm leaning towards this move is going to continue down a little bit. It's still pretty, it would be a pretty healthy connection. It wouldn't even be worrisome if that were to happen. Let's start looking at FX over here. Yeah, what's going on with Hertz? They're in bankruptcy, which means that their shares are worthless, and they're trying to actually run a scam on ignorant Robinhood investors, trying to get them to buy up about $500 million worth of bankrupt shares. That's insane. That's insane. Anyway, Jordan Money. Over here, we're looking at the euro US dollar. You could see over here overnight, if you wanted to look at it, you could see what happened was that we came into the support, and then during London, you could see that we resumed upwards. Again, that was not an impulse I was looking to take. If we are not able to hold this though, and the dollar strengthens up the session and starts rolling over, that could lead to some further pressure on the euro, without a question. Speaking of, let's check out the dollar. You can see what's happening over there. The dollar going back last week was rejected twice at this level of 97. It looks like it's going to take another run at it and see. There's going to be a big level to see whether on the next move on the dollar and US dollar pairs, whether or not it will be able to get up over there. I think that what we're looking at for today is the 10 o'clock a.m., which is about 45 minutes from now, and to see what specifically happens after the consumer confidence numbers are released, and what the market does, right? Will the market continue this upward clawback that it has in process right now? Or, as that's 45 minutes from now, U.S. equity markets opening in about 15 minutes. Is that where we turn? It's a big level. We're going to watch it this morning. Bum, 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 bum. Weeping angel. That's insanity. That's insanity at its finest. That's usually what is actually the tops of a lot of markets look like. I'm not trying to call the top here, but that's usually the type of behavior you see when Young Feng saying the US dollar still remains very oversold. And we had a big fundamental move in the dollar this week, and that was the Federal Reserve meeting and then not going ahead and actually doing anything about capping the yield curve. So what else is going on over here? Yeah, Vance, we're going to be continuing with that. It's more of a question of me learning to adapt and not it's look, we're all human. There's no question about it, right? We're all human. So, but I need to be stronger and better. That's all. So here we're looking at the Australian dollar, US dollar. This is interesting. This is obviously a pair. We're looking at the dollar, and yeah, it seems oversold to me, right? No question about that. We're looking at the Australian dollar, which is the barometer for risk. And we're seeing the market right now weighing whether or not that should continue, right? Whether or not, we got way too far ahead of ourselves. And there are still significant risks. And the one of the greatest risks that we've talked about, the two great risks are further escalation between the US and China, and also a resurgence of the coronavirus, especially one that causes lockdowns. And they were talking yesterday in the news about possibly having to lock down Houston, right? So, what would happen if they had to lock down New York again? And now you hear like Treasury Secretary Mnuchin say, well, we can't lock down the economy again. That would just be devastating. We can't do that. But they don't really get to make, he doesn't get to make those decisions. That's up to mayors and governors, right? So we'll see. But what I'm getting at is here, how much more, what happens next with the Australian dollar, right? I think as you've come into this first area of support, it's held and then it's bouncing off resistance. Watch these two levels. Watch these two levels for the next move. It really makes things a little bit easier. It's a pair that's in play, and it's one to watch. It looks like there's going to be a ton of setups. Unfortunately, it is Friday morning. It looks like I've already looked at two pairs, and including the S&P. All of them are interesting. Gold looks good. There seems to be just a lot of opportunity across the board. And normally I don't really trade on Fridays once we hit New York, but that might not be the case today. Lemmy, I appreciate that, brother. I really do. I definitely do. I know that, checking in with all of you and especially gaining the insight from the comments is, wow, that's bad, Joel. By the way, shout out to Houston for having some of the most incredible food in the country. I've obviously have traveled the country somewhat, familiar with, San Francisco and New York, who both have great food. I don't know what is up with Houston that has phenomenal food, whether it is Japanese, Italian, or just good old fashioned Texas barbecue. So Gary, you just go over here, you go up to where it says indicators, just click on that and then search true trend and then pull it right up and click on it. Boom, 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 boom. US trying to over. Yeah, the fall is going to be interesting. Watch Europe. That's what we need to watch. Europe. We need to see what happens going on in Europe right now. If they do see that curve start rising again, and I hope they don't. That's our signal. If we start seeing cases rise in Europe, then we really want to get risk off, and not for a swing trade here, not for like what's happening today or tomorrow. But if that's our alarm bell, if we start seeing that rise. Yeah, Ron, we'll look at that in just a little bit. We'll look at the S&P monthly head and shoulders. We want to look here at the pound US dollar right now. And so the big news as far as what's going on with the UK and Europe, they're expected to resume high-level negotiations on Monday. Now, normally you see the pound bid up into that and then sell off afterwards in the hopes something's going to be worked out. And then obviously nothing's going to be worked out. The only opportunity something will be worked out will be at the last minute, as these things always do. Yep, we'll look at the Euro Japanese yen as well for sure. Yeah, Banana Brothers, I think we're, let's pause for a second. Banana Brothers is asking what I think about future industries that are just not going to be able to survive this new culture from quarantine virus, over leveraged assets. And I think that's going to lead to a large amount of solvency issues, which is really going to weigh on the economy. No question about it. But we're learning, of course, the markets and the economy could be disconnected, right? And we're seeing that. And then we're seeing yesterday signs that could come back to reality. But we'll see what happens in the future. It's all good rabbit holes and thought experiments, and we're aware of it. But we need to be more focused on what is happening, right? And right now, what we're looking at is that big move to risk off yesterday. And now it's being retraced a little bit as they battle out to find out which is next. Was that just a scare that the market is going to continue to shake off? And we're going to see further risk on moves, a climb in equities, sell off in Japanese yen, a climb in commodity currencies? Or is that yesterday the sign of something bigger and more profound? Pound US dollar, you look at that rejection here of that resistance, and now is putting up what looks to be a false break here. The momentum here is to the dollar, no question about it. You have 38 minutes to consumer confidence. That could definitely have an effect, but there's no trade here right now. There's no trade right here right now. Are you into some type of mild level of support? Yeah, I probably should even have a level over there. I'm not going to put it though. I'm not going to put it. Let's look at the Euro Japanese yen. Let's see what's going on. Euro Japanese yen, this is into resistance right now. I don't know how good that level is. So yeah, that's where it is. It's a good level. I like where it is. It's a big bar over here on the euro. Euro, you can see versus the dollar also, it's trying to claw its way back, but it's in jeopardy of breaking down further. I don't know. I'm pretty neutral here right now. I don't really see a trade to be taking, especially right now on Friday. I'm completely neutral here. That did see better opportunities so far this morning on the Australian dollar, US dollar, on the euro, US dollar, on gold, on silver. I'm just not seeing it here right now. Let's continue. By the way, right now, 7 minutes to the market's opening, this euphoria of recovery from yesterday keeps coming into this important area. I like it. People are talking perhaps about seeing a head and shoulders forming on the monthly, right? What would that look like? Is this right over here, the left shoulder, the head, and this a right shoulder? Could it be? I mean, maybe, but there, by the time that plays out from our swing trades, we'll already be well positioned, So the monthly's a little bit tough to trade or even follow. You're talking about, decades that need to play out. So I'm not really going to be focused over there. But people are aware of that. We'll check in on it every few months, but we'll be well positioned ahead of that. Down 20%, huh? Is that why we're seeing the pressure, Tobias, on the British pound today? That is interesting. I did read yesterday that the UK was hardest hit by the coronavirus, their economy. And let's keep looking through some pairs over here this morning. Let's check back in, by the way, as the futures continues to pump over here. Let's look at that right here. Look at us coming up into this area of resistance that we're looking at. Let's see, that should be a little bit higher. Right there. 30.99, 3,100, the whole number. That is still a little bit ways above us. We're up 2% pre-market. Let's see what happens. Remember, consumer confidence today could be the trigger. We'll watch that. We'll watch that closely. Let's continue going through a bunch of pairs over here. Robinhood was down yesterday, huh? Lots of problems with Robinhood every time there's volatility in the market. I don't understand why traders stick with them. Is it a good user experience? Is the UI on Robinhood excellent? I've never even checked it out. It must be excellent, but it doesn't seem to work. Here we're looking at the Australian dollar Swiss franc, which saw a big risk off move yesterday, and that is coming into resistance right now. We have two areas of resistance. This becomes interesting. Let's look at this actually with the true trend involved. Yeah, this looks like, well, two things could be happening, right? This is on the verge of either breaking down and rolling over negative or being able to recover itself. As you come into this resistance, though, this is setting up a trade for next week as sure as day. Right? If it's rejected here off this resistance, start making lower lows, true trend rolling over. This is catching a trend change at the perfect time. That's a great trade. Even still in jeopardy, if it is able to maintain a breakout above this resistance and come into this heavier resistance over here at 0.66146. Watch out for that. So this one's on my list. This one actually looks pretty good. Not yet to the upside. Not yet to the upside. I would be more apt, I think, at this moment to be taking long trades on the S&P 500 than against some of these risk-on, risk-off pairs. Yeah, you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. Robinhood is showing that so much. All right, let's look over here at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Looks very similar to what we just looked at on the Australian dollar, Swiss franc. And you could see also we're now into some resistance. You know, this for me always becomes now, you have two similar pairs, Australian dollar, Swiss franc, Australian dollar, Japanese yen. So if I take a trade, you know, the wave is coming in. What is the wave, right? You all know you're a surfer. You're looking at over the horizon. You're waiting for the wave, which is setups coming in. You know, as waves come in bunches, so do setups come in a wave together. And then you as the surfer has to discern which wave are you going to ride. That's the perfect case right here. Australian dollar, Japanese yen, Australian dollar, Swiss franc, both showing the same potential setup. You don't take them both. That's increasing your risk. You have to decide if you're taking that, which pair, and then you have to, you know, weigh that versus every other setup that you see in the market and decide which one you're going with. By limiting the number of trades you take, you force yourself not to take every setup, which is easy to do. I mean, literally, it's, you know, you could take every setup. There's nothing difficult about that. Learning to recognize and take a setup is one thing, but really by limiting the amount of trades you take, you're forcing yourself to take what you believe to be the better setup. Now, you have no way of knowing ahead of time which is the better setup. By forcing yourself to have to discern, right, and then place your bet on what you feel is the better setup, you're actually filtering out a lot of bad trades. Right now, we're seeing the U.S. equity markets open. We'll check back in there in about 5-10 minutes. Nothing here right now to check in on. Let's look at Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. That's consolidating. I don't really see opportunity there, and there's a lot of opportunity. What happened here at the euro? This was a trade that, this is offering potential trades. First of all, this looked like a good setup overnight. I didn't even have the opportunity to look at the markets last night. This looks like a good one though. Euro, Australian dollar. You see this trend line over here. You see the rejection at the horizontal strong resistance. This right there was a good high probability entry, right? Now, what happens if this fades out and reverses and gets back above this resistance over here? Then that sets up a very strong long trade, right? So why the market is focused over here in this area, it's actually providing a lot of really good opportunity. I like it a lot. So let me highlight that for myself. Let me put that on my watch list. I love going in. This is a trade I would have taken. I would have taken this trade, right? Too bad I didn't. But anyway. There we go. Tacos and daps, tacos and daps. Boom, 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 boom. All right, let's keep going over here. We got the markets opening right now, and they are just off a few points since the opening. We're going to wait and watch dollar trying to claw back the pressure that it's seen earlier today. It's early in the session. It's early in the session. Yeah, Anaya, that's what's interesting about it. Oh, still good on the trade. I mean, I missed the entry, right? So I'm not looking for it right now. But at this point now, I'm watching to see if then we break above the trend line over here to the upside, or come back into it and reject it again. I like it though. I wish I would have taken that trade. Euro Canadian dollar. Someone mentioned this yesterday. This is what we looked at it, and we just talked about the fact that, listen, I don't play sideways ranges. This is actually a big range that you're looking at. You don't need the true trend in a range, right? True trend serves no purpose when things are trading in a sideways trading range, because look at this. You see the back and forth ping pong? That you don't need it at all. So if you're in a range, the true trend offers you no guide, right? But you could sell resistance and buy support in a trading range. Someone here yesterday in the live stream was all over this one, and all I could say is great work. You could see that playing out. Markets so far off about 10 to 13 points in the last 4 minutes as the U.S. equity markets opened. Here we go. Follow the volatility. Dollar coming around. New York is always tricky. New York is a tricky bunch. Euro, Swiss franc. What's going on over there? You could see that. You could see it's lovely to watch. When I say it's lovely to watch, you could see all the moves that we're looking at today, all the pairs. What we're seeing is just like support and resistance play out. Look where this move ended out yesterday, right into support, bouncing off support, right? Euro, British pound. This is the pattern that I'm tracking on this, just for the fun of it. And if we got up here or down here, I'd be inclined to play this broadening range, but that nothing really, right? Euro, Japanese yen, we did look at this already. I'm kind of neutral on this. You could see that I've highlighted a few different pairs that are offering good opportunity. I didn't the Euro, US dollar, which if it breaks down here, I think we see some good follow through to the downside. And the Euro, Australian dollar, US dollar is just in this tight trading range. So that's not something to really consider. So just looking at the Australian dollar, Swiss franc, Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and Euro, Australian dollar, but doing them from a perspective that I'm not going to be placing a trade today. It's too late in the week, but the markets are moving today, and anything remains possible. Even perhaps, something on the S&P. I don't know yet. I'm just gonna keep going with an open mind, taking a look at what's going on here in the markets. Pound pairs. I don't like messy charts. Let me clean that up. So this is the pound Swiss francs. This is look like it's having trouble here, being rejected as well, but being rejected by this resistance to start making lower lows. That might be a very good opportunity here to get short the pound Swiss franc. Keep watching that. What about the pound Japanese yen? Less so of an opportunity. This is coming back down into support. Obviously, this is an important area over here, the support at 134.68. It's got to close below there to start putting in further pressure. This just looks, neutral to me. I don't really see an advantage. Jackie, let's jump ahead to the US dollar, Canadian dollar, because I did see that comment over there. Let's check out what's going on. This looks interesting. This looks good. This is pulled back into an area of support now. A resumption off this definitely sets up a long trade over here. Was this area of resistance the market keyed off now where we should move this line, right? Should it be there, tighten it up right now? mean, that's what the market's focusing on right now, right? So this looks good next week. This looks like it could be a possible opportunity. And since we're looking at the US dollar, Canadian dollar, let's also look at the US dollar, Mexican peso, and see if that's also offering a similar opportunity. First thing I'm looking at is that support line there and seeing how that's playing out. And if that's a good line, it was drawn from over there and then over there. Yep. So I like it. And then I could see below over here, we have this area of resistance, this area of then support. That's could be where we pull back into. If we pull back into there and then reverse off it similarly to as the US dollar, Canadian dollar, it's a pretty good trade. Both of them could be a good trade next week. Let me extend that line and let me go ahead and add a line of support over here. I'm gonna be watching that closely. US dollar, Canadian dollar looks a little bit better right now. We got about now 24 minutes to we get the next data print the market's going to be focused in on. That's going to be the consumer confidence. Listen, I received some amazing comments and feedback yesterday, and I just want you all to know that I appreciate it. I definitely I read all the comments posted, whether on YouTube videos, and just want to say thank you. Just take a moment to say thank you. I love hearing almost every day about the enormous differences that watching these live streams, that working together in the training course, I get to see the results because I get to see the results, right? But when I hear the comments about how Jordan, listen, don't even think about that. Listen, you have changed my trading forever. I'm grateful for it, and so I just want to say thank you and acknowledge that all of those comments mean a lot to me and definitely touch me. Here at the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen looks pretty neutral to me, right? I don't see any edge here whatsoever. So we're seeing other opportunities. Thanks, Banana Brothers. Something at the Fed at 11 a.m. GP, if there is, let me know. I'm not aware of that. It's not on my radar. So please let me know. Yeah, well, that's a good indicator for us to keep a track of, huh? Going forward. Vassal, there is a link right in the description below that's marked my course and mentoring program, and you could enter right over there and work directly with me. I don't know. This is not the moment because I don't feel. I'm not going to get into the dividends that pays, right? But if you're serious about your trading, like unquestionably, I think that anyone could spend their time in here in these live streams, and there's no question they're going to improve their trading. And I believe with all my heart that probably be able to turn the corner to profitability, right? We've seen that happen a lot. Now, anyone who's working directly with me, there's no question that curve is going to be a lot quicker and a lot more efficient, and they're going to see just a lot further concrete results. So that being said, I believe this is the best free education on the internet when it comes to trading and the markets. I've been around for a while. There's so many good brokers to use. Why don't I look at the DAX? We'll ask that question in 1 second. What's the best? There's so many phenomenal brokers in the FX that it depends. You have to look at where you are located in the world and then do some research. So there are so many good brokers to check out. What about, why don't I look at the DAX? I don't look at the DAX. Why don't I look at the DAX? It seems to me to be really messy. How else could I put it? It's just ugly for me to look at all those gaps and whatnot, but I don't really see a difference if I compare the DAX to the S&P, right? The correlation is just enormously tight. So why would I focus on trading the DAX and not the S&P, right? The S&P is obviously a much more efficient market, is much more heavily traded. And that's why there's no difference here, in my opinion. in my, not obviously I don't even consider the DAX, so I'm not going to be like, oh, my opinion is the right one. But in my view, why I don't focus on it, it's the same thing as looking at the S&P more or less, and the S&P is a much more efficient market. So I hope that makes sense. What stat are you looking at, that, Anaya? What should I be looking at over here? Because I'm looking here at the Germany DAX index over here. So for a US based trader, that Darren, Olanda FX Trade for US traders. Olanda's, first of all, is an excellent broker, and they link directly to TradingView, so you could trade off TradingView. It's FX Trade, not Trader. And they are a phenomenal broker, especially for counts under $5,000. Olanda, you could use perfect money management. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, Christoph, that's really just the way I see it. It's not really a thing for a debate for all of us, but the equity markets seem to be follow each other pretty closely like that. I haven't looked at the US dollar. Is the S&P crashing upwards? This becomes, so 20 minutes from now, we have consumer confidence as we come into this area of resistance. Watch out for that. Dollar sold off hard in the last 10 minutes. Dollar had a big down move. S&P up 2.3% on the day, coming into this area that we're going to be watching. This is going to be fun. Yeah, so this is perfect. I understand exactly. Thank you for taking the time to answer. I trade the DAX because it's much cheaper and I don't have that much to invest. Thank you. I will take your S&P advice on my DAX moves then. That's 100% the way to do it, in my opinion, right? How we're looking, what's going on in the S&P is, and the same thing with all the markets. Obviously, we've seen the NASDAQ leading the surge over here. The NASDAQ led this over here. Tech was leading the way. We've looked at, it was the Swiss National Bank. We also looked at the fact, though, and this is what's good looking at multiple indexes. We looked at the fact that the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Dow were not making new highs, while the NASDAQ was. And that's kind of divergence on the indices is not such a bullish signal. I'm not saying that we've seen the top over here or anything like that, but you did see what it led to. And there was a large bit of nervousness yesterday. Let's just call it nervousy. So, sorry, I saw something about the monthly package offering. Does the monthly package offer access to the course? Yes. And no trade ideas and other. So the course does not include trade ideas. The course teaches you how to trade the markets yourself. So the monthly package does not include direct access to me mentoring you as the yearly package does, but the same course material. And a lot of people, you could upgrade if you start the monthly, and then if you want after the first month upgrade to the yearly. I'll refund the first month, and you after you access the yearly package. So we looked at the US dollar, Canadian dollar. It looks pretty interesting where it is right now, as it's coming back into this area of support now, right? So if this is able to hold here and resume up, that's definitely offering a possible buy signal coming into the next week over here. You could see that if we come back down, hold this support and resume off of it, that's a buy signal on the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Now, how do we protect ourselves? Why don't we just buy here at support? Well, price is currently falling, and this could continue falling right through that support, and you don't enter an entry blind. What you're doing is you're waiting for price to show you that it's resuming upwards. The first indication is price making a higher high than the previous price bar. We're now looking over here at the S&P is about 15 minutes now until we get the next data print. It is trading up pretty strongly. Robinhood buyers are programmed. I'm joking here, by the way. Robinhood buyers are programmed to just buy the dip. It doesn't matter, buy the dip. And you could see them coming out fiercely this morning, buying the dip. But, as people will learn as it comes to, when it comes to, people buying bankrupt Hertz shares, that Wall Street at the end of the day, if you're trading blind, is going to have their way with you. No question about it. S&P 500 is coming into resistance right now. You could see it over in this area. You could see it, and this is where we are. This is why, specifically, as consumer confidence comes in, which often is a turn of the market, that we're looking for it. We didn't miss anything yet. Markets don't go straight up, straight down. We're going to give this a moment here to figure out. Jordan Cave, I get the feeling Monday and Tuesday I could see some good movement in the markets once the dust settles over the weekend. I'm seeing already on Friday, we don't normally see this amount of setups. I'm seeing a huge wave come in myself. London could be a very active session on Monday. And of course, we could see some gaps on the equity markets over the weekend. Bitcoin's the only one that trades over the weekend, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency finance 2.0. So yeah, Jose, that's not even all right, man. That's just taking advantage of people. Consumer confidence is in 14 minutes at the top of the hour. So let's keep going. There's a lot we haven't looked at, although we've looked at a lot. New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. Let me look at on the 8-hour over here. You can see that this is also coming up to an area that I want to be following this. This is going to come to deciding, as we're coming up, bouncing. So do I tighten that up? Look at my mouse, right? This is where we bottomed out. And then if I follow the mouse, it's between that resistance right there, right? So does that make sense now as the market is now focused more right there to do that? 100%, right? You understand that? You see that? I'll leave this one here. But as we're coming up now into this resistance here on the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, if this rolls over here, and this could be the end of the trend, right? It'll come to seeing what's the better setup, the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, the Australian dollar, Swiss franc, or the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. Obviously, I'm not going to take all three of those, which are just tightly correlated, and it would just be picking which setup looks the best. Yeah, Ben. So if you're first of all careful trading the S&P today after yesterday's big move. We're coming into resistance right now on the S&P 500. We're coming into resistance. I have right here at 3089, between 3089 and I would say between 3100 is all area that we could see a reversal. Get above 3100, right? And there's no way you're looking at the short side the rest of the session. Is that simple. Get above 3100 and there's no way you're looking at a short trade. Is it possible here to get a short trade off coming out this morning? There's a lot of momentum to the upside. A lot of momentum to the upside, right? But you are coming into an area of resistance. Yep, I think so. I think there could be possibly an opportunity to short, depending on how the market reacts at the top of the hour when we get to consumer confidence numbers. TC, definitely agreed. Watching Jordan's stream is a big help. My stream is delayed. Personally, I just got my first profitable week. Nice, brother. Been 6 weeks, and a lot of his strategies, such as not micromanaging, right? Once you enter into a trade, you got to leave that trade alone. You got into a trade for a specific reason. Listen up. You get yourself into a trade, you not only did your analysis, you've been stalking and waiting for that entry. You know where your entry is. You know where your stop loss is. There's no reason to exit that trade before your stop losses hit, before you take some off profit, or before you move your stop loss to break even. Stop entering trades and then exiting them before what you plan to play out plays out. All right, what's going on over here? What else are we looking at? I'm kind of waiting now for 10 minutes a little. Yeah, we could look at WTI crude oil for the consumer confidence number to come out, and just want to see how the market reacts off of that. WTI, where's my gold? Let me look here on the 8-hour. So beautiful textbook. Once again, when I say textbook, what happened? We pulled back into the support and are now resuming off of it, right? So we were looking at that yesterday. We said yesterday in the S&P video, our plan is basically to see what happens right now, to just get neutral and watch what the market does. Does the market shake off this yesterday's nervousness? Look how much the market sold off, just getting a little bit nervous. Does that seem very stable to you? Look how much the market sold off. But go back just a few weeks ago, look how euphoric the market does. We talked about the markets going to extremes, right? So careful getting whipped around there right now. The market doesn't know what it wants to do yet. Wait until we have that clarity that we feel like now we know what the market wants to do, and then get involved in it, right? What happens if for some reason we see, an extremely high number, consumer confidence number, right? Once the market gets a whiff that perhaps the consumer's staying in the market and strong, we could go really bull today. This could be extended. If you're looking at the technicals alone, all that happened is you came into support over here on WTI, the support at 35, and now you're resuming off of it, making higher highs. No reason to be short. I'll tell you that much. Jordan, I noticed that the link on the description for my Fx choice is an offshore broker. Is this real safe to use from the US? I'm not sure. Yet US citizens, US residents, and or green card holders are allowed to have offshore bank accounts. Absolutely 100%. You also, as a US citizen, could incorporate an offshore entity and then trade at any broker, Forex broker in the world, regardless of what the Dodd-Frank rules are, because an offshore entity is an offshore entity. But yeah, do you feel that U.S. regulation is a benefit for you and helps you? For me, it's just stay within the law, right? But I don't feel more comfortable, for example, banking at a bank that's FDIC insured. I'm smart enough to realize that if the banks get into a problem and start going under, that the FDIC is already bankrupt and has no chance of helping me. Oh, Honda is awesome. No question about that. What's the ticker for Aurora, Cannabis? Yeah, you listen, as long as you claim your income, you're allowed to bank offshore 100%. It's one of the questions you're asked on your tax returns. Do you have any offshore bank accounts you want to claim? Neil, Patal's asking, how much influence does options expiry have in my experience? Next is coming up June 19th. Listen, I'm not, that's not something I could talk about. Whereas I could offer anything that if I don't know, I'm never going to tell you. I'm never going to offer my opinion or speak about something that honestly I don't have a well-informed opinion on. I know that even in FX, and I watch all the time, right? Because Forex Live always provides when the options are expiring and the amount of, and over years, over a decade, I've not been able to figure out any edge whatsoever when it comes to options expiries. I know the triple witching obviously is a volatile day, and all that I could say is that it brings volatility, but it's not an edge whatsoever in my trading. Yep, Alex, that's absolutely true. And guess what? Just use an accountant. It's that much easier. Yeah. Stefan, as far as any comments about, whether it's Belize, the Shiles, the British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, they're just all offshore jurisdictions, right? And obviously there's a reason why all of Wall Street uses the Cayman Islands. Listen, consult a tax professional and or a lawyer that specializes in that if you have questions. I am not, and that's the best thing to do. But it's all perfectly legal. You just have to report all income as a U.S. citizen. So here we are right now. We have about 5 minutes. 5 minutes until we get the consumer confidence print. Markets have been pretty volatile this session. No question about it. The dollar, which got smacked down, is now clawing its way back. Jumping over here to the 15-minute time frame and 30. Now, listen, there's one thing also about taking a trade and another about recognizing a trade and not taking it. Both are really beneficial for you, right? There is no way, as we were trading up here, 10 minutes ago, that I was going to go ahead and short that move on the market. That's not my style of trading. My style of trading is waiting for clarity. I did not have any clarity whatsoever. I'm not really, I have zero. My FOMO level right now is zero, right? My FOMO level right now is absolutely zero. So that's a good place to be trading from, because then you're in control. We're just going to watch what happens. Again, if we get above 3,100 after this news today, at that point, there's no longs to be had. There's no shorts to be had. And we probably go into next week with a pretty good bullish bias. Hopefully nothing bad over the weekend, peaks its head up, which is quite possible. ACB. Keep an eye on the clock, though. I want to keep an eye on the clock. I'm going to look at this first on the weekly. Oh my goodness, that looks disastrous. That looks absolutely horrible. Yeah. So I think you'd probably have more luck with XRP. That there's nothing to say about that, right? That just looks really bad. That's not where I want to put my money. Oh, Nick. So I want to read that comment because I want to be informed about it. We have 2 minutes now. Is Fxcm a good broker? Oanda's a good broker. Fortunately, BlockFi doesn't work with New York residents. So I tried Cash App and my bank licked fine, but now won't accept my bank debit card. What would your next place? Nick, I had a problem with Cash App too. And so many people have such good experiences with Cash App, so that's unfortunate. You could check out whether or not Kraken is offered in New York. I mean, like Coinbase is, I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it unless you had no other alternative. So Nick, I would check out Kraken. It's not an easy process. It takes a little while for the verification to go through, but it's one of the best places to use and services. All right. Let's take a look right now. We're going to take a look at, we're going to be watching the S&P over here. I saw a comment about US dollar, Mexican peso getting clobbered. I hope not. Oh yeah, it is. Well, it was up hugely yesterday, that's for sure. But it is well off, coming back into this area of support. If this resumes off, this is a good trade, as well as the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Both of those, if we're going to see that risk off resume, both of those are leading candidates next week. You are looking at the US dollar, Mexican peso down 2% today, but go to a daily chart over here and you could see what happened yesterday, that explosion. So that still looks good and healthy. That looks good and healthy. Let's see what's going on over here right now. I'm going to watch the market and then we'll look at the number and we'll see what's going on. Oh, what about Gemini? Gemini in New York. Gemini is situated out of New York, Nick. That's probably a great avenue to check out. Wait, Felipe, Gemini doesn't operate out of New York, but they are situated out of New York? That's crazy. All right, Coinbase might be the only option then. All right, not much of a market reaction so far. Let's see if we can see a print over there. Consumer confidence looking a little bit better than expected. That's important. Consumers feeling good. How are they going to be feeling next print, though, as the COVID cases rise? That's the question. I think last, couple of weeks ago, everyone's feeling good, being able to go out to the restaurants again. We were just talking about restaurants being closed in the Houston area. We'll see. Market so far not doing much. How does a weak dollar? What was the question? Nice, Thomas. How does a down dollar affect the market? Dirty Kid is asking. It's a pretty good topic for us to look at right now, while we give the market a few minutes to see what it's going to do, if it's going to react at all off of any type of consumer confidence numbers. So does the dollar affect the market, and how does the dollar affect the market? Let's do this. Let's pull up over here just the daily chart of the dollar index, starting here at January 1st, right? And then at the same time, well, let's try an overlay. Interesting. So you're seeing here at the beginning of the year, you're seeing both the US dollar rising strongly and US equity markets also doing the same. So here in this period, for these 2 months, you had a strong US dollar rising, and equity markets rising. When the dollar came off, equity markets came off. Then over here in this period, which is the next month, you saw the US equity markets come off and the dollar come off, right? So over here, for the first 3 months, they're very tightly correlated. Then over here, you see an adverse correlation begin, right? You see the dollar rising and the equity markets are still selling off. And then ever since the low of the market crash, when the Fed started QE, you started seeing a little bit of a different behavior. You started seeing an adverse correlation occurring when you see the markets, the dollar coming down and the markets going up. So ever since the prior to the bottom of the crash, you saw a very tight correlation between the US and the dollar. And since, you've seen a very opposite correlation between the US dollar and the markets. That's all you can say. I don't know what type of correlation is going to continue going forward from this point, right? I am in the camp that we're going to see a firmer dollar. When we see a firmer dollar, I also believe we're going to be seeing a strong US equity market. So you could only look at what's happening right now. And over the last 6 months, we've seen both. We've seen the first 3 months, an extraordinarily tight correlation between the US dollar and the equity markets. And then for the last 3 months, we've seen a completely adverse correlation between the two. I don't know what happens tomorrow. Michael, that's true. That must be the mouse hitting over there. That's interesting. The click of the mouse. How bad is that? I'm so tired over the last couple of weeks of tech problems that I don't even want to get into it. But if it's bad, of course I will. Vance, I think so. I think so right now. So, by the way, I do want to answer this question, George. It's a very good question over here. George is asking, what's my opinion on stable coins as a source of income? Now, if anyone is aware that BlockFi pays on stable coins 8%, which is a really, really high interest rate, no question about it. And, as we come into the future, fast forward until December of 2021, as we are coming towards about more or less 32 months into the next halving. And as I start becoming bearish on Bitcoin, most likely that would be the play, right? It could be, depending on what's going on with gold at the time, transferring funds out of Bitcoin into something more stable like gold, because gold is stable. Or it could be, getting into the US dollar if I feel strongly about the dollar at the time, And if I do, at that point, right, you do have stable coins that pay, especially through BlockFi, a really healthy interest rate. So that is something that's going to be coming into play much further in the future. When I say much further in the future, I mean like 18 months from now, that will be our conversation. That's not our conversation right now. Dollar is reversing all of its losses, about to turn green on the day. Does that open up a possibility here if you see a breakdown on the euro, further extension down, not here on the Australian dollar, US dollar? What about the pound US dollar? Is it seeing some pressure because of that? I imagine so. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's seeing further pressure now because of that. If I was a day trader, and I'm not, I would be looking here at the pound US dollar, looking for a possible next move over here, which looks to be headed up right now. DXY like the sentiment, that's for sure. Are the equity markets lagging compared to the DXY? I mean, Martin, we just looked at that pretty solidly and in depth, looking on the daily time frame. And the first 3 months up until March 20th, they were just extremely, I didn't see a lag. They were just extremely correlated. And since then, they've been adversely correlated. That's all I see over there. Nothing much going over there. I do think DXY hasn't got erect yet. Yeah, I don't think they should be. I mean, I don't. So it's a good question. What do we think of the consumer numbers and no reaction from equity markets? I mean, they came in more or less in line, right? They came in more or less in line. It makes sense to me there's a small beat here because if you just go back, indicators like this is lagging, right? And if you go back a couple of weeks ago, things were looking much more positive in the US. There's no question about it. Things were looking good a week ago. Now, fast forward a week later, maybe not as much. Now there's pause for concern, right? So what's the next print going to be? There's just there it is. It wasn't a help for us this morning. If anything, it was a little bit of a boost to the dollar, right? The dollar kind of liked it a lot. Austin, I don't have any thoughts on natural gas whatsoever. All right, everyone. I think this is a good place as we have no more trades ahead for the session to call it a weekend, and it's going to be a good one, I hope. I know I'm looking forward to spend some time with the wife. Also looking forward to doing later this afternoon to release tomorrow a video on the S&P 500, taking a look at what our plan is going to be next week as we get this session out of the way, giving us a little bit more opportunity. And I do believe it's going to be really dependent probably right now. I mean, we have a session ahead of us, but this is a pretty important level. If we're rejected by this level over here, and I'll take a strong look at it, because it's about 10 points. If we're rejected off of there, I'm going to be looking to take a short over on the S&P 500. We get back above it, I'm not going to take the initial break above, but I might be looking to scale back in and start building out some longs over here. And maybe we're going to come out and test those highs. Everyone, also, of course, J-Bone, of course, we're going to have on Sunday released the weekly Forex forecast and analysis video, setting up the vibe going into the week ahead, giving us that deep down perspective, taking a look at what's going on. There's going to be it might be a little different this week. It might be a little more setup oriented, because if there's a lot of setups going into London on Monday, well, that's what I'm going to be preparing for, and that's what I'm going to be looking at. So instead of maybe looking at the daily time frame across the board, I might be more focused on what setups are coming, that I need to prepare getting into Monday session. So absolutely, de nada, George, de nada, Jorge. Mercado Libre. Nope. Yeah, I mean, so this is interesting. All right, my thoughts about this. I have only bought one thing off of Mercado Libre, and that was N95 masks back in February. Yep, Back in February, I saw what was coming. But you all know that, those that were here with me. So that's the only thing I've ever bought off of them. Using Amazon is actually, which was not a year ago. A year ago, using Amazon in Mexico was not a good experience. It is now. A year ago, Market Libre was a better experience, even though I never used it. But Amazon is doing a better and better job. I don't think that this is more like eBay. It's not eBay in that you don't bid on things, but it's more like an eBay. Let's put it that way. So my bet would be on Amazon. How about that? I hope that's helpful, JC. I hope that's helpful. Boing Sang, thank you, and have a good weekend. You too as well. Skylar, good to see you today, brother. De nada, Pablo. Erwin, everyone. Yeah, that's just my opinion. But right now, at the same time, everyone is obviously, they're buying stuff off the internet. So that's good. Do you keep trades over the weekend or do I take profit? Tom, I hold trades over the weekend all the time. I tell trades over the weekend all the time. The only thing when it comes to the weekend that I'm not really concerned about is entering into new trades once New York hits, right? That's a very rare occurrence. Anaya, I take less trades these days. I watch the charts and predict direction and see how right I am, but take very less number of trades. You deserve it because you spent a lot of time in here working on your trading, Anaya. I'm really glad to hear that. That's awesome. That's a good note to end on today. Everyone, thank you for all the likes today. But seriously, only if you learn something or appreciate what's being shared, go ahead and hit that like button, right? That's the one thing I ask. I'm grateful for all of you. I wish you all a beautiful day. WTI, Jason, was bouncing off of support this morning. Is that continuing or is that being faded? It's continuing. You could see WTI has come back down into the support level. It's testing it and resuming off of it. Looks pretty good. Dollar's gone neutral. Dollar's fought its way back after some volatility. 97's a big number. We'll look at all that together on Sunday. Have a beautiful Jesse. Peace, brother. Tacos. Thanks, Jesse. Jesse's talking about printing up some Conquer trading and investing t-shirts. If anyone is interested in that, please let Jesse know. Maybe just put yes or something in the comment right now, just to give him an idea of if that's something that he should do or not. I for myself would love one. That's for sure. I would love one. Yeah, thank you all. Last comments on BT. Yeah, the best comment about Bitcoin going into the weekend is that Bitcoin does not close. Bitcoin's always up and running. Bitcoin will be trading over the weekend, and that could give you some type of sentiment going in to Monday of what the markets are pricing in, because Bitcoin will be trading, and Bitcoin right now is correlated to the equity markets. You saw that happen yesterday as the equity, but Bitcoin only sold off a little bit, right? It's coming right now. Right now, Bitcoin is as tradable as it was yesterday. Yesterday, we were looking to see if we broke up or broke below these two yellow lines. If we broke below, we said 91, hit 91, and are now back up testing this broken support. It should be resistance now. If Bitcoin has the possibility of right now being rejected and making lower lows, then we come back to 91 and we'll see. If that doesn't hold, we're coming down lower, right? That could happen over the weekend. I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin trading at 8,500, 8,600 over the weekend. That's a possibility. Now, at the same time, this clawback move could continue. You could see Bitcoin get back up into this triangle area, right? And that would be good and healthy. You're awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I think we got a lot of yeses in there, Jesse. A lot of yeses in there, or enough that, I definitely want some. Do you do kid sizes? I don't know, Andre. That's a good question. That's in my mind. So the S&P was down about 5.5% yesterday, and I'm not sure how much Bitcoin was down. If anyone knows, relatively close. But if you remember over here, Bitcoin would be down like enormous numbers. Why the S&P was down big numbers. Dave Teo, Absolutely. Did you ask something I missed, Dave? Michael Crosley, thank you for being here. Absolutely appreciate it. Love sharing it with you all. Love spending my time navigating the markets with you all. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone. And I'll talk to you later. Yes, t-shirt that says, "What's going on, everybody?" That's awesome. That's funny. No, I was just kidding about the kid sizes. Don't worry. We'll stick to adults. But thanks, Jesse. 6%. Bitcoin was down 6% yesterday, in line with the S&P. And look at same thing over here. While Bitcoin is a little bit more of a recovery, I wouldn't read into anything right now. Bitcoin's blah blah blah. Let's check this out before we get off over here. I'm in no rush. S&P now fading, but you could see maintaining this pretty good posture, right? You can see that little bit of channel she's in right now. And what could we, should we tighten that line up? What would the breakdown look like? Let's try and tighten that up, that little bit of channel that we're in right here. Let's try and just like have that as a guide right there. Seems to be, I don't like that, but I like that better. It's kind of what we're trading in right now. So watch that. Watch a breakdown over there. That would be setting up some further downside. What does that look like on the 2 hour? I don't really like that. What about the 4 hour? Maybe watch the 4 hour here. Start making lower lows. Dave, thanks you. Thank you again for your wonderful comment. Will, thanks, man. Have a great weekend as well. Nathan, the first module of the training course, there's a link below for my course and mentoring program. You do have the opportunity to work directly with me on your trading. So if you think that I offer any type of edge that could help you, benefit you enormously, that's for you. But my first module is about 20 minutes going into my history about the markets. It's a 20-year journey. So we're not going to get into that as we close right now. No, but my uncle, I think I talk about this. He owned 2 newspaper routes. He retired young, multimillionaire, just from buying and holding. I mean, he's kind of from that Warren Buffett generation when the markets just basically went up for 40 years, right? But he did it. A newspaper route does not bring in much income. Think about that. He had 2 newspaper routes, and he was a long-term investor his whole life. Retired young. When I say young, I mean like early 60s, a multimillionaire. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. I thank you. God bless you. And I'll see you on Monday morning.